Sorry, Deputy Troy.
Thank you very much, Lascan Corla.
4 minutes.
Thank you. I welcome the opportunity to raise this issue today. And it would appear that the reason why I submitted the topical over the weekend, that the matter has been resolved, the threat by Bord na Gun to move one of the feature races from Mullingar Greyhound Stadium to Galway has rescinded. The Irish Cesarewitch race, which is a premier 600-yard classic, which Mullingar has been the home place for the last 18 years, and it has to be said has ran it very successfully in that time. It appears that decision has been rescinded. I want to first and foremost compliment the board members of the Greyhound track, the breeders who use the track, indeed my own constituency colleague, who over the last number of days has highlighted this regrettable proposal that emanated last week, and indeed thank the Minister for taking the call over the weekend. The decision, I suppose, was not formally notified to the board, and I wonder why. And the board has now changed their mind in advance of the board meeting which was due to ratify this decision tomorrow evening. And while that is most welcome, it certainly raises questions over the governance of Bord na Gun. Is Bord na Gun, was there someone in Galway piling on the pressure to remove this race in the first instance, and was the decision to rescind this taken because there was such pressure put on, as I said, by the directors, by political representatives, by the breeders over the last number of days? We were told that the reason for the proposed move was because of capacity issues at Mullingar. And to my mind, that's a very lame excuse, because the capacity issues of the fire escape existed definitely last year and perhaps even for the last 2 years, and there was no proposal over the last 2 years to move the race. But what this shows is a clear lack of support by Bord na Gun to Mullingar, and we know that Bord na Gun has already made investment in other regional stadiums like Thurles, Clonmel, Galway and Tralee, and we wonder why not Mullingar. Bord na Gun received government approval to dispose Harrods Cross in February 2017, and part of the reasoning for that was to clear their huge debts that they built up over the last number of years, but also that some of the money that was raised would be used to invest in other stadia. Now, the decision by the fire officer is not one that we can or should interfere with, because health and safety is paramount, but the lack of support by the board to assist the directors of Mullingar make the necessary physical improvements is hampering the ability of the dog track to reach its full potential. And because of that, they're losing revenue on a weekly basis. The track is turning down highly profitable benefit nights. Sports clubs travel from the surrounding counties, or previously travelled from the surrounding counties, to use Mullingar track, and that is no longer available to them. I understand Bord na Gun turned down a recent request for funding to replace the advertising board at the centre of the track, a further indication of the lack of support of the board to Mullingar Greyhound Stadium. Now, Bord na Gun has responsibility to present a business case to the government. The government has representatives on the board. So can I ask, when will necessary funding be made available to carry out the essential capital works for Mullingar, to enable Mullingar generate their own revenue and put them on a sustainable footing into the future? Gurmagad.
Thank you, Lascar Corla. I'd like to thank Deputy Troy for raising this issue. Ironically, at 3 o'clock I introduced the Greyhound Racing Bill 2018 to the Shannon, with scheduled for committee stage next week if all goes well, and hopefully it will be legislation that will modernise and make the greyhound industry, underpin the greyhound industry with legislation that's fit for purpose for the 21st century. You mentioned the fact that your colleague, Deputy Peter Burke, I presume he's also been in touch and made reps on this, and made reps directly to the board, as I understand it, or of the track. But just On the official information I have, Gcon, as you will know, is a commercial semi-state established in 1958 under the Greyhound Industry Act 1958, chiefly to control greyhound racing and improve and develop the greyhound industry. And it is the body, corporate and separate legal entity to the Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine. I've made inquiries with Gcon and have been informed that due to current issues around attendance capacity at Mullingar Greyhound Stadium that the 2019 Irish Cesara, which is being proposed to be scheduled to be run at Galway in 2019 and over 575 yards. The intention behind this proposal is that it be a temporary move to Galway, as there are currently capacity issues due to fire safety restrictions at Mullingar Greyhound Stadium. Approval of any significant capital project at individual stadia is subject to the completion of a systematic review of the industry footprint as proposed in Gcon's Strategic Plan 2018 to 2022. I have been advised that the procurement process for appointment of an independent consultant to undertake this study will commence shortly, and is anticipated a final report will be completed by March of next year. Gcon have informed me that in the interim it has engaged a consultant architects to prepare a proposal to address the deficiencies of Mullingar Greyhound Stadium, and this proposal will shortly be put forward for planning approval. On receipt of the same, it will be necessary to obtain a fire safety certificate and disability access certificate regarding the proposed works. A sum of €100,000 has been assigned for the works at Mullingar Stadium under its business plan for use of some of the surplus proceeds from the Harless Cross sale. Currently, the capacity of the restaurant is limited to 126 on the upper floor, with 130 capacity on the ground floor. The suggested proposal involves the demolition of the existing fire exit at the southern end of the building and the construction of a new larger fire exit staircase. The solution would provide, subject to fire authority approval, an increase in capacity on the upper floor, bringing it to 240, with the ground floor capacity remaining unchanged, in effect a net increase of 114 patrons. Gcon has also informed me that the National Greyhound Consultative Forum meeting held on the 26th of September 2018, Gcon indicated that a review of the fixtures and events calendar was underway and submissions were invited in respect of the calendar. The necessity to review the calendar was based on the changes in the industry in general and to provide for an optimum racing calendar throughout the year. A number of detailed submissions were received, and these were considered by a subcommittee established to make a recommendation to the board. The subcommittee met on 3 occasions and gave detailed consideration to a range of factors impacting on the events calendar. A draft calendar was formulated, and this was put forward for consultation on the 11th of October. Submissions were invited on the draft calendar by the 16th of October, so that the matter could be considered at the board meeting scheduled for the 18th of October, tomorrow. Gcon has informed me that at this point no decisions have been made regarding the fixtures and events calendar for 2019. I think that answers.
Deputy Troy, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Lascan Corley. Well, there's a number of welcome developments in your reply, Minister, and I want to acknowledge that. But you're right, there has been plenty of submissions made in advance of the deadline yesterday evening. I myself made one, as indeed I know my colleague did, and I know the directors did and breeders did. But we're told, and the feedback I'm getting from the board is the decision has been taken. And that decision is not to advance with this move, albeit temporarily, next year. So in your reply, I'd appreciate if you could confirm, has that decision been taken, yes or no, or have we to wait until tomorrow evening for that decision to be taken? Because it's on the local newspapers that the decision has been rescinded already, and that's the point I made in my opening address, is how could it be made in advance of the board meeting, and that would raise questions over the governance and the structure of the board. So perhaps you could clarify that. Obviously, we want the decision rescinded, but we want to have it verbatim that is actually happening. Secondly, in relation to the much needed structural investment in the stadia, that is welcome, but we have to question, why are we waiting so long? The fire officer closed this down November 2016. That's 2 years ago. Harold's Cross was sold last February 2017. 24 million, I think, was 24 million was the price that was got, and there was a promise at that stage that additional funding would be made to the other stadia around the country. I named a number of stadia that were benefited from that additional funding. Why has Mullingar had to lose out for the last 2 years? And could I ask the Minister to engage with the board to ensure that this necessary works is accelerated so that the track can meet its full potential and ensure that there is no capacity issues going forward into the future?
Minister to respond.
Okay. There's a number of points raised there. First of all, I stand to be corrected, but I think the final transfer of money was much more recent than February 2017. I think the actual I think that was the time of the valuation. But I think the process has taken quite a while. Also, the strategic plan was only presented this summer. The works that you're talking about, with regard to other stadia, I can't answer directly, but I would have assumed that they were ongoing works that are not part of the strategic plan, because none of them really could have been up and running any sooner than this. The recommendation, the proposal was to temporarily move the Cesarewitch to Galway for next year, and the heats, and the qualifying heats. That was the stated intention and proposal. If there's a decision or a recommendation to rescind that, that will have to be formally approved through the board. I mean, I can't say to you that it's rescinded, because, like if the board is to be function here, the board has to make that decision. It may make a recommendation, have received during that 11th to the 16th submissions, and on foot of submissions change, decided to stick to their decision or whatever, but that we will have to wait till tomorrow, I'm afraid. I can't preempt what will be said at the board meeting or decided. Any other question? I think that's them all. I think that's them all. Thank you.